I'm going to show you the steps for making the Hawaii poster. This is found on page 94 of the Photoshop Classroom in a Book tutorial. If you'd like to follow along in the book, it's on page 94. The first thing you need to do to begin is to find the files that you'll need to download. You can either find these on the CD in the back of the book, or you can find them here in Unit 15. I'll click on the Start file and download that. It's called 04 Start Photoshop. And when I download that, it will automatically open in Photoshop. It looks like this. So we get a picture of a pineapple. We're going to be working with layers in this tutorial, and we've worked with layers before. As you can see right now, there's 5 layers. We have the postage stamp layer, which the eyeball was off for. We have the Hawaii layer, which is a text layer, and we have the flower layer, and then the pineapple layer, which we can see, and the background. Notice how the background is locked, and this indicates that it can't be transformed. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add one more layer to this one, and so we'll do that by downloading the next file. The next file is the beach file, so go ahead and double and click on that to download it, and then when you open it, it will open, and you can see it's opened on a different window in Photoshop. And so both of these are separate files. They're not different layers, they're actually separate files, and we're going to combine them together. There's many ways to combine things together in Photoshop. One way that you can do that is by changing your window to arrange, and then you can see both files. And by using the Move tool, this top tool, I can drag the picture to join with the other file, and then it becomes a layer in my original pineapple. So once I have done that, I can close the beach file, and now my layer 1 is this beach file that I brought over. Okay, what I want to do with that layer is I want to move the layer down, and I want to put it actually below the pineapple layer. So I'm going to click and hold and drag down to move it below, and you can see how when I move it, it activates that little line, and that'll indicate that it will stay sort of where I want to put it. So I'm going to let go, moving it below the pineapple layer. Now I can go ahead and if I want to, I can turn the eyeball off and see my layer 1. We're going to add a stroke to this layer 1, which is like a border. And so in order to do so, shut all the eyeballs off above layer 1, and we're going to double click on layer 1. Make sure you double click on the blue part of the layer, not on the name. If you double click on the name, it thinks you're trying to change the name and it gets confused. So don't be on the name, be right beside it and double click, and then you can see this layer style pops up. What we're going to do is add a stroke, and so you can see these are all options that someone will be working with some of these on this tutorial, but we want to add this one called stroke. And so I can click on it to add a stroke, but I also want to be able to change this window in the middle. And so I'm going to click on the on this word again, like on the line stroke, and you can see how that changes. And when I click on these different ones, it will for example, change this menu in the middle. The only one I want is stroke, so I'm going to click on that. And then the type of stroke that we want to use for this assignment is a white, a white stroke. So we're going to click on this little box here and change it to white. And then we want to change the position to inside, and that makes it go inside on the this layer instead of outside. The blending mode should stay at normal, the opacity at 100, but we're going to increase the pixels to 5. This makes it just a little bit bigger. Okay, and then just click OK. Now once I've done that, you'll see down here on the layers palette that a stroke has been applied, and if I turn the eyeball off, you can see what it looks like with or without that. Okay, so that one's done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more work with our layers. We're going to put this layer 1 above the pineapple now. So go ahead and click on it and drag it above. Turn the pineapple layer on, and then we're going to we can turn on the other layers just to see how things kind of line up. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to do a little bit of work with the opacity of the postage layer. So click on the postage layer, and right here you can see the word opacity. We're going to change this to 25. You can either slide it down until it's at 25 or right about, or you can type 25 in this box by just deleting the numbers that are there and changing them. Then we're going to work on a blending mode change, and we've used blending modes before when we did our Andy Warhol assignment. For this one, we're going to actually work with the pineapple layer. The first thing we're going to do is to duplicate it. So we're going to right click and we're going to duplicate the layer, and then this window pops up. Just click OK, pineapple copy, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the blending mode to overlay. And so in this, with the pineapple copy selected, go here to the normal and change it to the one called overlay. You can see how it changes the effect just a little bit, making it stronger, like more bold. Okay, so we're doing good so far. The next thing that we're going to do is in the postage layer, we're going to change the blending mode to multiply. And not a major change, but that was part of the direction, so I'm sticking with it. All right, we're going to now do a little bit of work adjusting the layer 1. We're going to rotate and adjust the size of this layer. So you probably remember that if you want to change the size of a layer, you do Control T. Once you've done that, then your layer should be able to be changed in size. So Control T, and it will make those little, these are called handles, pop up. You can make it smaller. It's a good idea to hold Shift so that you don't skew the size of it. And in order to rotate it, instead of being on the handle, you want to be just outside, and then you can see how it changes to like a little rounded arrow, and they want us to go ahead and kind of turn it like that. Okay, so if you can make yours look pretty much like that, that would be great. And then click on the check mark up here on the properties bar to apply that change. All right, we're going to do something fun now. We're going to get a color blue. So in our color picker over here, on your foreground color, choose a nice blue color for the sky. Whatever color you want in the blue family. Your sky can be a little bit different than mine. It's okay, but something that's blue. And then click OK. So your colors right now should be blue and white. And if they're not, you may also need to change your background color to white. We are going to be in, okay, it looks like we want to add a new layer. And that new layer is added by clicking on this little box down here at the bottom of the layers palette. So right down here, this one that looks like a little page folded up, if you click on that, it'll make a new layer. They want us to put it below the last pineapple but above the background. And then we're going to do an effect that makes it look like clouds. So you go to Filter, Render, Clouds. And in the background we get these cool looking clouds. I want to just show you what they look like, so I'll turn all these off. So it's just kind of like, it looks like a sponge painting technique. Okay, so that's pretty fun. How exciting. Okay, so we've got the blue clouds made. Now the next thing is we're going to add one more layer to this, and that layer comes from Moodle again. So maybe before you go to Moodle, maybe save your work here. You can just do a save as and put it on your desktop. You can just keep it as a Photoshop file for now because that keeps all the layers. Okay, so we're going to get that next file from Moodle. The last file is this flower file. When you click on it, it's going to download it probably, and then you're going to need to open it. Just like before, it opens separately. So if you remember how we did that before, we went to Window, Work, Arrange, 2 up, and then we used this Move tool. I clicked on the flower, and then I drag it over. Okay, that didn't work. Hold on. Back it up. All right. Let's see. In this flower file, oh, they made a vibrance thing on top of it for us. This is an adjustment layer. That makes things way more complicated. Okay, well, this is a good problem that I can show you how to fix. Okay, so do you see in this, this is my, I'll just click on this one. This is my layer that goes along with this file. There's like this layer down here, and then on top of it there's this thing called an adjustment layer, in this case vibrance, and they added it probably to make the flower more vibrant. I don't know if you can really tell a big giant difference, but what we need to do before we bring this over is we can merge this together. And so this is done by going to layers, merge visible, and then we just have this one layer, and then it will work to drag the flower over, because otherwise all I did was just drag over this vibrance thing, which is not helpful. Okay, so here's my flower. That was a lot of extra work. Okay, so now here I am back in my Hawaii poster. Okay, so I've got this big flower layer, and what they want me to do is resize it and make it, see how it's like gigantic. It's going to fit down here in the corners. So I did Control T on that layer, and I'm going to bring it down and put it kind of in the corner. And what they want for the poster, once you've resized it, click the check mark, and then they want it to be above the pineapples. So it would go like down here. Got it? Okay, looking good so far. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some text. So you can see how this word is already here. We're going to add a little bit more text. Okay, so text is added by clicking on this T over here on the side. If you click and hold on it, you can see that there's both horizontal and vertical type, horizontal being like normal and vertical being up and down. And then these are different tools that we're not going to use yet. So we're just going to start with this horizontal type tool. And I want you to click one time right below the H. So click one time, and then we're going to type in Island Paradise. Island Paradise. And you can see that I have like a crazy font selected. Your computer may or may not have a whole bunch of different fonts. We can add fonts to your computer. I happen to have a lot of fonts, but we can just use a basic font for this. You can see how when I highlight it, I can change the font by going up here to the properties bar, and I can choose one of the fonts that's already installed on my computer. And since I have a lot of fonts installed, I have a lot of choices. For this assignment, we want to just go ahead and add the type, and then we want to change it to green. So it doesn't really matter what type of font it is. It's more important just to learn how to add it and then how to resize it. Okay, so when you've added the font, you can resize it by clicking here and changing the font to different sizes. If you don't see the size that you want, or if you want to modify the size, all you have to do is change this number, and you can also make the font bigger or smaller by clicking right next to the font size. And see how this little horizontal arrow deal shows up? I can make the font really small or really big by just sliding back and forth right there. I can also change the color by clicking on this box. Right now my font is white, but if I want to change it to green, like in the directions, I can do that by just changing the color. Okay, and then click OK. There's also other tools that go along with the font tool, but for right now, the most important thing is just to learn how to add a font in, change the size, and change the color. And then up here at the properties bar, click the check mark for OK. All right, we're going to do some crazy work with this Hawaii text over here. So what you need to do is, the Hawaii is a layer. It's not actually a text layer. See how the text layer is different? It looks like this T. This is just a bunch of pixels, and so we're going to select the pixels by right-clicking in this little thing right here called a thumbnail. And see how Select Pixels comes up? Choose that. We're actually going to go ahead and put a gradient inside this, this area of white pixels. And so a gradient is one of these tools right here. So this one, gradient tool, and then there's all these awesome choices. And you can even get more choices by clicking here and then choosing some of these. For example, if you want to try adding in, I don't know, simple, and then this little box pops up and you can say append, and it will just add more in. So if you want to choose metals, append, special effects, append, and I can get all these different ones. Okay, so I've got these pixels selected and I want to choose some kind of cool gradient. I like this rainbow one, and then I'm going to go ahead with this gradient tool and I'm going to click and drag, click and drag up, and it will make the gradient appear inside the selection. And you can choose a different gradient than me. You don't have to make the same one. All right, that's great. We've got our gradient. We're adding a lot of interest to our poster. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add a layer effect to this Hawaii layer. So over here on the layers palette, we're going to double click again, and then this window pops up. And for this time, we want to go ahead and we want to add a drop shadow to the layer that we're working on that Hawaii layer. See how that makes it kind of pop out? And then we want to actually copy and paste this drop shadow effect that we added. So we can go to right here, we can copy the layer style and we can paste it on our other layer, that's our island paradise. You can do that by just right clicking and then saying paste layer style. See how now both of them have a drop shadow. Okay, we're almost done, really close. The last thing that they want us to do is to add a border to the whole thing. Okay, so this makes it look a little bit like a postcard, I guess. To add a layer to the, or a border to the whole thing, we're going to actually be working with the image flattened. So what you want to do is make sure everything is lined up how you want it. This image will be flattened, and that means that you can't adjust it anymore. So if you like how it looks, flattening it is done by going to the word layer, flatten image. Okay, and then this will also get rid of any hidden layers. I don't know what we have that's hidden. It makes it into one single layer. Okay, and that's a permanent change, so don't do this unless you're all ready. Okay, now in order to go ahead and add the border, what we're going to do is we're going to once again double click. And this time, instead of adding the layer style, it wants us to unlock the background layer, so we click OK. Once we've done that, double click again, and now we can add the stroke to the whole outside by clicking on the stroke and then going ahead and changing the color again, this time to white. We can change the position to inside, and you can see how it automatically brings it up. Let's change the pixels to 7 and opacity 100% and click OK, and it makes it look like a postcard. All right, it's all done. Time to save it, and this time make sure you save as. When you're all finished, save it as a JPEG, and it's helpful to remember that it's Hawaii, and then you can submit it.